The third one was you're holding the phone. So I would do this action, like throwing action to send something. And fourth one was, sorry, you're my model. We would hold the phone like this, and I would do the throwing action um, towards that phone. Any judgment? What would be your favorite? What would be your least liked, and why? You're the first.
Well, I have a fifth position in which you hold your phone like this and you hold another phone like this and you just bump it. So
So you want a
that
new
could
idea
be,
to
yeah,
implement.
that could be another way to implement it.
Right.
I think the first one would be best because it's in a handshake, and you usually give a handshake to a person like in a business-like manner. Like working with him, so I'll give you a handshake. So I think that would be a better one to exchange something like a business card, something more formal. Not necessary to touch.
And more importantly, I think for a lot of people, keeping their devices spick and span is very important. So nobody wants scratches with each other's devices.
Right.
So that way, the second would appeal to me the most, because that's you sending and gravity is there. So gravity means going down. So the person who's sending is up, and the one who's receiving is down, because that's the tradition, even otherwise here in India at least. So that makes more sense to me.
Anyone else?
I'd like to suggest the fifth one. You're just raising a toast, rather six, sorry. Yeah. You're just raising a toast, So, like two people, you raise a toast. I mean, so you're acknowledging the other person, and even that person raises a toast, and some sort of transfer
So if
happens.
you're in a public place and someone sees you both raising the phone, and if that person raises at the same time, what would happen?
Wow, that would create a movement of sorts, everyone raising their phones.
You guys are great. Some of the ideas some of the comments we already received from various people, you already summarized it in such a short period of time. Like the first one, a lot of people mentioned that the issue of scratching the phone, although it's nice gesture, very intimate in situations, but scratching the screen issues, and also what if I have to give something to someone that I don't like? I still have to touch. So there needs to be an alternative. The second one, exactly as you pointed out, people quite like the idea of, or added their ideas of the sending hand should be on top because that's how the gravity naturally works. The third one had a lot of people said it was quite fun, but there was an issue of what would be the distance between allowed distance and what if it ends up in a wrong destination? How do I actually make sure that the other person could actually catch it conceptually? So we did a test. Well, as I explained, it wasn't because the ideas were necessarily brilliant, but by providing these various examples, it provides discussion points and let participants to think about what are the relevant contexts and situations, and what makes gesture really work or do not work, because there are various aspects that people have to deal with in diverse contexts of use, and also personal preferences as well. We wanted to reflect, again, different personalities as well as cultural characteristics. So our participants in this space were coming from 14 different countries, but also the age group were really diverse as well, and their expertise or competences in using mobile phones. Some of the ladies basically didn't even turn their phone on themselves. Their husbands were doing it for them. And some people were really knowledgeable studying engineering, and they could actually always almost comment on, like you guys, some of you guys, that this would be possible with this technology. The aim for this phase was really to establish the design principles for designing gestures. As I mentioned earlier, we don't necessarily know what would be the coming feature in the future, so we wanted to make a ground, basic kind of guideline for upcoming gesture development. So again, some of the other examples that we used, and a few aspects that we found out. One fundamental part that people really care about gesture is, can I do it? And there are two aspects to it. Can I do it comfortably enough, or can I do it accurately enough so for the given task? So on the left, again, it's not necessarily a good idea. It was idea to have the phone in between your palms and do it just shaking once to open up an application or open up bookmark. Lots of comments we heard was, well, I don't want to really get tired trying to use my phone because the movement is just too big. And it cannot be used in crowded places because I do use that kind of function in buses and waiting in line. So I don't want to hit other people by trying to use my phone. The other one, it's probably quite familiar with a touchscreen interface. It's slightly different. So like turning the pages in the book. So you would do this to browse images or flicking through different pages in a text reader or web pages. It's a nice gesture, and people were quite familiar with it, but there were several constraints from the context of use. So for instance, if you're in a hurry, running, you have to find something. You don't necessarily have that mental space to browse like this while you're on the run. And people said, well, if I'm kind of lying down in a sofa at home, just browsing photos, then it might feel right to do this. Another aspect was, obviously, a lot of people prefer to have the functionality available for use with one hand only. Oh, he just turned the phone over to silence. So using two hands is not really suitable for many. Some other functions that we didn't show. One of the most interesting findings for me was how conscious people were considering that using the gesture to use the phone is a social act because you make yourself visible to the others. So they were really conscious about what will other people think of me. So on the left, it was an idea to do this in order to find out where you are. So basically, if you're lost and you do this, and the map will launch and automatically search for GPS and show where you are. So that was an idea. And a lot of people said, well, that's really weird. I don't want to do that in public. Depending on personality, some people are, well, if this feature is available only on the latest Nokia phones, then it will be really cool to do this. Another comment was more of a social consideration that, well, this is too flamboyant for my personality. Yeah, for me personally.